For 200 years I have stood here on the edges of Thibodeau. I have seen boom and bust, pestilence and prosperity. I have seen the worst of man and war, and yet, through it all, I still stand, the largest surviving 19th century sugar plantation.
The village itself was probably completed around 1840s. The first family to have the facility was Spanish land grant given to Etienne Boudreau, and Etienne and his family kept it till 1835, and it was sold to Mr. J.W. Tucker. And Mr. Tucker was from Natchez, Mississippi, and he was the one that introduced sugarcane to the area, and he brought slavery into this facility. They had 135 slaves between 1835 and 1863.
The plantation went through a change after the end of the Civil War and the abolishment of slavery. In 1906, the country store opened in the front of the plantation. It was a mercantile store selling various items and food and drink. In those times, the workers would travel to the front on the trains that carried cane back and forth across the plantation to purchase meals and drinks. In those times, the transactions were copied down on ledgers and taken from their pay.
Through the first 100 years, it went through about 6 different owners. And 1893, Mr. Wilson Lapine and Frank Barker bought it as a joint venture, and it was considered golden years under their ownership. And Mr. Barker died first. Mr. Lapine died in 1926. And at that time, after that, his son took it over, Wilson Lapine Jr. And Wilson Lapine Jr. closed the mill because the cane went into a blight. They call it the mosaic disease, and it didn't produce enough sucrose to make sugar, so it was shut down for a period between the 20s and the mid-1940s. It was an open plantation at one time. The sharecropping didn't come in until later, and they had a sharecropper's house here on the corner. They did the front portion of the fields, and they had a sharecropper in the back. Mr. Boudreau, Nathan Boudreau, his family was raised in the back. I think he had 11 kids, please, and they were all born in the house in the back. And he was the sharecropper for the back section. At one time, it took 350 people to maintain the fields when it was all manual labor, mule and plow. And now, probably get by with 5 or 6 people with the modern equipment they have, modern harvesters, all of that.
Today, the plantation's lands are still in use producing sugarcane. The fields are worked by the Hebert farmers. The buildings that still stand are historical pieces. And the country store now stands as a museum dedicated to the history of Laurel Valley Plantation.